delicatebeats.com.
Hey, welcome back guys, JT here for delicatebeats.com. Today we are creating EDM buildups in Logic Pro X. Let's go. So here we are in Logic Pro X, and I have a session here at 128 beats per minute, which is pretty much the standard in EDM world. Now I've put together two buildups, and I've color-coded each of the tracks so that you would see that both have the same types of building blocks, meaning percussions and sound effects. But I've done so because I want you to hear the difference between the first result here on the left, which was achieved using the stock sounds in the loop library from Logic Pro X, and in the example on the right, I've used more professional sounding, more edgy sounds that I downloaded on splice.com, and these particular sounds come from I think it's Kashmir Volume 1. And so I'm going to play the two buildups, and you're going to see the difference in the sound quality. So this is the first buildup, and now the one using the Kashmir sample pack. So this one sounds much more, broadcast ready, more world class, ready for festivals. While this one is a bit tamer, the drums aren't as punchy as they should be, but it's a great starting point, especially if you've already spent all of your hard-earned money on a copy of Logic Pro X. Well, this goes to show that you can still achieve good results using the stock sounds. So let's analyze our main buildup and see what types of sounds and how we sequence those sounds to achieve a good EDM buildup. So the first track here is the most important, and this is going to be our snare roll, okay? So when you want to create these types of EDM snare rolls, you're going to work with building blocks of 8 bars. So we are going to go back here on the left and start from scratch building this buildup. So if I copy and paste this first snare hit, what I want to do is put a snare on each of the beats for the first 4 bars. So that's going to mean 16 copies of this snare hit, like this. Now on the second half, you want to increase the intensity. So what we're going to do is have 16 hits again, but this time for a duration of 2 bars. That means that the snare is going to hit twice as fast. We're going to go in here and zoom in so that here on our ruler, we're going to get the subdivision for half. We're going to make this hit half the length, and we're going to make 16 copies of this bad boy again. All right, and finally on the last bar here, we're going to do the same trick again. So we are going to make this half its size and make 16 copies. Like so. We are keeping the last bar to create a silence. That way we create as much anticipation, and we also create room so that when the drop hits, it sounds so much bigger and more aggressive in your face. All right, so this is what our basic snare roll will sound like. By the way, I've added a little stereo delay just to make it a bit more interesting, because quite frankly, it sounds a bit stale like this. All right. Next up is the kick. This is the orange track right here, and we are going to do something similar to the snare roll, but this time, because the snare track is quite crowded, we're going to do it half time. So for each of the 2 snare hits, we're going to have 1 kick. That means that in the first 4 bars, we're going to have 8 kick hits, and then as you can see here, I kept the loop for the two subsequent bars. And finally, on the last one, what I'm doing is I'm keeping the end of this heavy kicker beat. By the way, this is one of the loops that you can get with downloading additional content for Logic. And what I found interesting is this little clap thingy that goes on at the very end. So now we get this. So if we've pretty much filled up the low frequencies and mid frequencies, and now I'm just using this little tight clap topper. And by the way, I'm making a statement of using these loops pretty much as is, so that you can see that very quickly, using just the stock sounds, you can put together some nice sounding buildups. So nothing too crazy here. If you wanted to make it more interesting, you see that I have a sidechain track here with the same cashmere kick from my other buildup. So what I could do here is go in there, maybe choose the sidechain track as the sidechain trigger, maybe crank up the ratio, make the attack and release very fast. Maybe something like that on the threshold, just to make it even more bouncy. So we're going to copy this, and what I'm going to do at the very end is just remove the claps from the silence bar, but keep the first one on the first beat of bar 8 with the kick, so that when I come to the very end, I have this nice little hit just to introduce the silence. All right, moving on to our risers. Risers are very, very important, almost as important as the snare roll. And in here, I'm using a combination of 3 riser effects. And as you can see here, we're going to use the name of the file to find within the browser the right clip. So noise, sorry, and it's riser effect 08. So I'm going to drag this clip here on the same track, and as you can see, it's much shorter. So what you want to do when the clips don't fit your BPM is to time stretch your sample, and you can do so by clicking Alt and dragging the bottom right corner of the clip all the way to the end of bar 7. Now obviously this is quite drastic. I've almost increased its length by 100%, so it will deteriorate the sound quality. But because this is not front and center in the arrangement, it doesn't matter that we get all this like digital crackle and pop stuff. As you can see, this sound is already sidechained compressed, and I'm also applying a reverb because at the end, when I introduce this silent bar, it's nice to have the trail of the reverb also play in a little bit. So first white noise riser, I have a second white noise riser here, and it's number 6, and this one is actually half the length. So here you could just cut it. In this case, I'm pretty sure I time stretched it again, like so. So again, with Alt down, you just drag the corner of your clip, and I thought this one had a different character, a little bit more in the mids, so I thought this created a bit more gradual effect with the risers. And finally, you want also a tonal riser, meaning that you have a note that keeps increasing in pitch. That brings a lot of anticipation within the buildup. So using this riser synth effect, number 1, we're going to drag this, and again it's a matter of time stretching it a bit just to fit our tempo for this session, and we get this nice And then all we want is something to transition from this silent bar to our main drop. So we are going to need a drum fill. In this case, what I did was just go in there and type in fill, and I used this snare fill, which I thought really reminded me of the old, house tracks. And I'm just making the clip. I'm just using actually the first half of the clip, moving it all the way to the end of the 8th bar. And now we get this. Like so. And finally, I always like to use a big boomer type sound effect when I create these silent portions. So in this case, I've used boomer effects number 5. And by the way, it's always good to know like the slang terms or the way producers name these types of files. So sweeps, risers, boomers, because it becomes very handy when you need to search a big sample pack, or if you want to use the search in the loop tool within Logic Pro X to find exactly the type of sound you are looking for. So in this case, I wanted a big boomer, which sounds like this. Sometimes they'll also name them drop downs and downers. So what I did here is cut it at the very end of bar 8. You can also apply a little fade out just so it doesn't clip, and this is all there is to it really. Obviously this is like the most basic sequence for build-ups, especially with the snares. Once you master the choice of sound, the way to sequence these different roles, you can come in and be more creative. Say for example, I had maybe this is a tropical house track, and I have these syncopated, pluck chords, and instead of having, just a snare on each bars, maybe I'm using, let me see here, maybe a little rhythm like this, kind of reminding us of the mombaton / reggaeton / tropical house types of rhythms. And then maybe I could have my kick do the exact same thing. So maybe we could have this instead. So you can get creative with the sequencing of the drums, and you can also get creative by learning a bit about sound design and designing these white noise or tonal risers yourself and your boomers, and then you really get your signature EDM build-up sound. This is all I have for you today. I'm not going to go into the sound design of risers, boomers, and these types of sounds. I actually have a tutorial on white noise risers, so if you want to learn how to do that, just check out the other videos on my channel. And if you have other questions about creating nice build-ups, use the comments below. So if this information was to your liking, please subscribe to the channel. Maybe give me a thumbs up. This will go a long way to helping the channel, grow. And this is JT for delicatebeats.com signing off. I thank you very much for your patience. All right, peace out, guys.